chosen one. Listen, heaven is still. The air itself trembles as angels gather, wings folded, eyes fixed on you. For what you did was not ordinary. You made a decision that split realms, a choice that caused eternity to take notice. The hosts of heaven, who have witnessed empires rise and fall, stood in awe, not of a crown, not of a miracle, but of a heart that obeyed when no one was watching. You could have stayed silent. You could have followed the path of comfort, blending into the noise of the crowd. But something within you whispered, "No, there is more." And that whisper was heaven's invitation. When you said yes, something shifted, not just in your world, but in the unseen realms that govern destinies. Do you know what happens when a mortal chooses obedience over fear? The angels bow, because that kind of faith cannot be manufactured. It is born through fire, through tears, through every silent battle you fought in the dark. Your yes became a sound wave that rippled through eternity, shaking spiritual structures that stood for generations. You may not realize it yet, but you have stepped into divine history the moment you made your choice. A light ignited around you so bright that the watchers of heaven turned their gaze toward earth. They whispered your name with reverence. They said, "This one has chosen life." It is written in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 19, "I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your descendants may live." Heaven offered you two paths, the temporary comfort of the world, or the eternal alignment of the kingdom. And you, trembling yet resolute, chose life. You chose obedience. You chose the narrow road that few dare to walk. You have no idea how powerful that moment was. The very instant you chose differently, destinies tied to yours began to shift. Chains that bound generations started to loosen. Angels recorded the moment as sacred, for a human heart had aligned perfectly with divine will. You didn't need a crowd, a title, or applause. Your obedience alone was thunder in the spirit. Every tear you cried while making that choice watered the soil of your calling. Every sacrifice became incense before the throne. Heaven is not impressed by earthly achievement. Heaven responds to surrender. And when you surrendered your will, the heavens roared in approval. The angels were shocked, not because you are flawless, but because you are faithful. They saw the weight of temptation pressing against you, and yet you stood. They watched the storms rage, and still you whispered, "Yes, Lord." They saw the pain, the loneliness, the uncertainty, and yet you didn't turn back. That is why heaven applauded. That is why the light around you grew stronger. Understand this: every divine choice draws divine attention. Heaven always moves where obedience is found. The moment you chose the will of God, the atmosphere around your life changed. What once resisted you will now yield. What once was closed will now open. The ground beneath your feet carries the vibration of destiny fulfilled. And though you may still feel small or unseen, know this: the eyes of heaven are upon you. You have stepped into alignment with eternal purpose. And that is the most dangerous and beautiful place to be. From this moment forward, your walk is not random. Every step is orchestrated. Every delay has meaning. Every breakthrough is scheduled. Do not underestimate what happened when you said yes. That decision echoed in heaven's chambers. And the angels still talk about it. They are watching now, not with doubt, but with anticipation, wondering what this chosen one will do next. If this word resonates deep within your spirit, seal it in faith. Type 444 inches, the comments right now. It is your prophetic sign of completion and covenant, a declaration that you choose life again and again. And if this message stirred something within you, share it, like it, and subscribe, so this fire can reach every other soul who needs to be reminded that heaven is still watching, still believing, still moving. You have chosen life, and heaven will never forget. Your obedience has opened a new chapter that no force of darkness can erase. The same angels who watched in awe now move beside you, guarding every step, carrying messages of strength and purpose as you walk deeper into the promise written over your life. Heaven celebrates quietly but powerfully. And even now, creation adjusts itself around your yes. The wind, the light, and time itself honor your decision. You are no longer walking toward destiny, you are walking within it. Fully seen, fully chosen, fully alive. You did not realize that your choice would become a point of divergence, a sacred crossroad in eternity. While others moved along, paths paved by convenience, you turned toward a road that glowed faintly with divine light, uncertain to human eyes, but blazing bright in the eyes of heaven. That one step separated you from the common flow of humanity. You broke from the rhythm of the crowd and began to walk to the beat of eternity. The moment you turned, something ancient stirred. Angels who had watched generations of indecision stood in silence. They knew this was not a casual decision, not a fleeting inspiration born of emotion. It was a spiritual alignment. You chose to walk where the air itself resists compromise. You chose the narrowness that refines. In the unseen realm, there was motion currents of spiritual energy colliding, darkness recoiling as light expanded. You could not see it, but heaven could. The unseen world reacts every time a chosen one makes a righteous choice. Demons that had claimed legal ground began to tremble. They realized their grip was broken, not through warfare or shouting, but through quiet obedience. There is power in divergence. Heaven marks the moment when a soul stops drifting with the tide and begins to swim upstream toward divine purpose. That's what you did. The angels marked the coordinates of your surrender. They wrote in heaven's archives, "Here is where the chosen one separated from the world." And while on earth, nothing seemed to change. Same routine, same sky, same hours, slipping by the spirit realm recorded an explosion of light. The frequency of your being shifted. You began to carry the resonance of obedience. Those with spiritual perception can feel it. When you enter a room, the calm authority that does not need to prove itself. You did not choose the easy way. You chose the way of process, of refining, of hidden fire. That is why heaven trusts you with weightier matters. The angels have seen many start strong but fade when the test intensifies. Yet you held your ground, not with loud declarations, but with quiet endurance. The divergence is not just about where you are going, but who you are becoming along the way. Every step away from compromise is a step closer to purity. Every no to temptation is a yes to destiny. You may not see the reward yet, but heaven already does. The Word of God reveals in the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verse 26, "Give careful thought to the paths for your feet, and be steadfast in all your ways. That is what you have done. You gave thought. You did not move in haste or emotion, but with spiritual awareness. The angels marveled because so few pause long enough to truly discern which path leads to life. Your divergence has cost you the silence of lost friendships, the sting of misunderstanding, the loneliness of being different. Heaven saw it all. But these were not punishments, they were confirmations. Separation always precedes elevation. The angels have witnessed how pain refined your clarity, how solitude sharpened your discernment, how every tear watered a harvest of wisdom that is now beginning to bloom. In the stillness of your surrender, the unseen audience watched you walk away from what others chase. They saw you close doors that the world begged you to open. They saw you choose the higher ground when compromise offered comfort, and they bowed their heads, because obedience is the purest form of worship. Even now, the air around you carries evidence of that choice. It is not visible, but it is tangible in the spirit. The enemy knows he lost influence when you turned. Heaven knows it gained another vessel fully yielded. The angels know a fresh assignment has been released around your life. You have entered the realm of divine distinction. From this point, you no longer follow trends, you follow truth. Your life becomes a testimony written in invisible ink across time. Here walked one who would not bow. There is a quiet glory surrounding divergence. The light does not scream, it simply shines. You are becoming that light, unapologetic, unmovable, untamed by the world's systems. The angels still watch, not in shock anymore, but in reverent expectation, because they know what happens next. When one chosen heart stands apart, heaven begins to move on earth. And so you walk steady, silent, aflame. The heavens trace your steps now, weaving your path into the fabric of divine memory. Every breath you take carries eternal consequence and radiant purpose. Even the silence around you hums with destiny's rhythm. The angels remain poised, their wings half raised, awaiting the next act of your unfolding obedience. When your name was spoken in heaven, it did not echo as an ordinary sound. It was a vibration of purpose, a melody that only eternity could recognize. The moment you chose obedience, the angels began to whisper your name, not with curiosity, but with reverence. They said, "This one has chosen the narrow gate." End of. Your story began to spread through the ranks of light. Messengers who carry divine reports from earth to the throne paused in awe. They had seen many humans pray. Many make promises in desperation. Yet few follow through when the fire comes. But you did. You kept your faith steady when storms pressed hard against you. The whispers grew. Do you see how this one still praises through pain? Do you see how they still forgive when betrayed? Heaven's courts were filled with the sound of your endurance. What you called survival, heaven called worship. What you called weakness, angels called wonder. You have become a living testimony that obedience is stronger than talent, and purity is greater than performance. The angels understand glory, but they cannot understand grace the way you do. They watch as you stumble and rise again, learning to love a God they can only serve. They marvel that humans fragile, flawed, dust-made can love so fiercely, so freely, so faithfully. The Word of God reminds us through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 8, verse 4. What is mankind that you are mindful of them? Human beings that you care for them? That question echoes through heaven every time you pray. The angels themselves ask it when they see how deeply God defends you, how relentlessly He calls you His own. They marvel at His patience when you doubt, at His compassion when you fall, and at His strength when you rise again. Your name has become known in the spirit realm, not for fame, but for faithfulness. When you worship in silence, your sound travels farther than any song sung before crowds. When you lift your hands in surrender, the light around you intensifies. The angels recognize it. It is the light of one who refuses to quit. There are moments when heaven goes quiet, when even the elders around the throne look down to earth, because one human heart has touched the divine with pure devotion. Those are the moments when your name is whispered again, gently, reverently, joyfully. You are not forgotten. Heaven knows you by the sound of your obedience. You may feel unseen, but you are witnessed. Every act of love you choose in a loveless world is an act of rebellion against darkness. Every time you choose peace over retaliation, angels record it as victory. You are teaching the unseen realms what grace looks like in flesh and blood. That is why heaven honors your perseverance. You have not only been watched, you have been celebrated. You are the proof that faith can live in fragile hearts and still shake eternity. Now, pause for a moment and let this truth settle within you. The angels do not merely serve, they study you. They look into the mystery of redemption and see it written across your life. You are walking theology to them, living proof that love wins. Let your heart absorb this. Heaven knows your name. Every time you speak light into darkness, you affirm the reason angels bow. Every time you forgive, you remind them why grace astonishes even the holy. If this word ignites something deep within you, write in the comments, I choose light. Because when you type those words, you are declaring alignment with heaven itself. You are saying, I reject bitterness, I reject fear, I reject compromise. It's not just a comment, it's a spiritual signature, marking you as one who stands for truth, even when the world prefers the dark. It's your way of telling the unseen, my choice is clear, my allegiance is heaven, my heart belongs to the light. And so, heaven keeps watching, not with surprise now, but with admiration for the one who carries divine fire and still chooses light every single day. The angels carry your name like a song now, woven into their wings. Every beat of their flight reminds heaven of your yes, your faith, your fierce devotion to the divine path. Your obedience has become fragrance unseen, yet undeniable. The fragrance of surrender rises each time you choose peace. Each time you trust the unseen hand that leads you through uncertain shadows. When you type, I choose light, you are reaffirming that covenant. Those 3 words are not digital ink, they are a declaration, a line drawn in eternity, sealing your allegiance to heaven's fire. There are battles fought so quietly that the world never notices. Yet heaven counts them as victories greater than any conquest of armies. Yours was one of those. In the stillness of your nights, when tears blurred the edges of faith, an invisible war unfolded. The angels leaned closer, not to interfere, but to witness what no power of darkness could comprehend, the strength of a surrendered heart. When you felt the weight pressing against your chest, it was not simply anxiety or doubt. It was the pressure of opposing realms, the pull of darkness trying to reclaim what light had already claimed. The unseen world does not easily surrender what it once possessed. But neither do you. You fought not with swords, but with endurance. You did not shout, you stood. You did not curse the night, you prayed through it. The heavens trembled at that kind of resistance. Hell recognizes power in loudness, but heaven measures power in faith that endures silence. In those moments when you wondered if God had turned away, He was actually closer than ever, observing your trust, refining your resolve, proving the depth of your faith to principalities that dared to doubt your loyalty. It was never just about surviving pain. It was about revealing glory. Every trial that came against you was permissioned by heaven to refine you, not to break you. The angels stationed near your life were not guarding you from trouble. They were guarding the treasure that was being formed within you through that trouble. The Word of God speaks through the prophet Isaiah. Chapter 48, verse 10. See, I have refined you, though not as silver. I have tested you in the furnace of affliction. That verse is not poetry, it is process. You have been inside that furnace. You know what it feels like when the heat of testing seems unbearable. Yet, even there, something remarkable happened. The impurities of fear began to melt away, and the substance of true faith began to rise to the surface. The angels witnessed it all. They saw how darkness tried to whisper lies into your exhaustion. You are forgotten. You are failing. You are finished. But you silenced those voices with a single act of perseverance. You woke up again. You prayed again. You believed again. The enemy's plan was not simply to defeat you, it was to exhaust you until you stopped believing. Yet every time you chose to keep going, the atmosphere shifted. The angels documented those moments as triumphs. For in each act of endurance, a part of heaven's nature was revealed through you. Do you know why angels are fascinated by humanity? Because they see in you a reflection of something they cannot experience: faith. They see you believe without seeing, love without assurance, hope without evidence. To them, it is holy wonder. They have seen God's glory. Yet they marvel at those who love Him without ever having seen His face. That is why your struggle mattered. Every tear became a statement, I still believe. Every breath in the midst of pressure became a declaration, I still trust. You were never losing. You were being refined into someone unshakable. You may have walked through nights where your prayers felt unanswered, but heaven was never silent. Silence was the language of trust. God was letting the strength He placed in you speak louder than any external sign. Now you stand differently, not harder, but holier. The fire did not harden you. It purified your vision. You see clearer now. Love deeper. Discern faster. That is what the furnace does. It transforms vessels of pain into instruments of power. The angels still watch you, not because they doubt you, but because they have learned something through you. They have witnessed grace turn weakness into authority. They have watched fragility become faithfulness. Your quiet battle changed the map of the unseen. Territories of fear have been reclaimed by light because you refused to bow. The angels who observed that war will carry its story through eternity. A human, tested in fire, refused to quit. You are not just surviving, you are shining. The furnace didn't consume you, it consecrated you. And now, wherever you walk, the residue of glory follows. Unseen, yet undeniable. Heaven knows. The one who stands after the storm carries authority the storm cannot take away. The ashes beneath your feet now glow with quiet radiance. What once was ruin has become revelation. Proof that divine fire only purifies what it refuses to destroy. Even the silence around you hums with reverence. Angels mark this ground as holy, for it is where endurance met glory and turned pain into purpose. There was a moment, a still, unseen instant, when your heart whispered yes to heaven. It was quiet on earth, but the echo thundered through eternity. That silent yes became a light so pure that the angels themselves turned to see where it came from. It was not the light of perfection, it was the light of surrender. You may not have realized it, but that small whisper reshaped your atmosphere. The unseen realm responded. What once felt heavy began to lift. What once resisted began to yield. That's the mystery of obedience. It moves mountains that hands could never touch. There is something sacred about your yes. It does not require applause or attention. It simply burns steady, like a lamp in the night, refusing to go out. And heaven sees it. Heaven treasures it. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." That is who you have become, a city of light built upon the foundation of faith. The angels see it from afar, glowing like a lantern in the dark world below. And through that light, others will find their way home. But even lights need oil, not the kind drawn from the earth, but the kind poured from the heart. Every prayer, every act of kindness, every moment you give to God, it becomes oil for the flame. That is how your light burns brighter. When you support light, you multiply it. When you give, you become part of the flame that keeps the message alive. This space, these words, this message, this sacred moment is not a performance. It's a table set in the wilderness where heaven meets human hearts. And like every table of light, it stays bright because souls like you choose to pour in a little more oil. If this message has touched you, if you have felt that quiet stirring in your spirit that whispers, "This is my word," then consider this. Maybe you are not just a listener, you are a carrier. You help the flame travel farther, reach higher, last longer. When you choose to like, share, and subscribe, it's not about numbers, it's about light, finding more windows to shine through. Every share becomes a spark that leaps across timelines. Every subscription becomes a lantern placed on another hill. You are helping heaven build constellations out of human hearts. And if you ever feel led to give, to donate, it is never a demand. Think of it as pouring oil into a lamp that has guided you through the dark. Each drop you pour is voluntary worship, a silent thank you, whispered back to heaven for the light you've received. Imagine this, somewhere far away. A soul weary and wandering will stumble upon this flame. Your gentle act of generosity becomes the unseen match that keeps it burning until that person finds warmth again. Your donation is not payment, it's participation. It's you saying, "Keep the light alive. Let it reach the next soul." Heaven receives such gifts as fragrance, not currency. Let your giving be like morning dew, soft, natural, freely falling. Let it rise from gratitude, not pressure. Give because you've been touched, because something inside you wants the fire to keep glowing. There is beauty in voluntary generosity, The angels see it as worship. They record it, not in numbers, but in love. When you give freely, they bow in reverence because they understand that true offering flows from hearts that have seen light and wish to share it. So yes, like, share, subscribe, and if your heart ever stirs, donate, not because you must, but because you want to see light remain. You are not funding a voice, you are fueling a flame. And remember, every seed of generosity, whether it's a share, a word, or a gift, returns as illumination. It comes back as peace, as breakthrough, as clarity in your own night. That's how heaven's economy works. You light another's path, and God lights yours. The angels are watching, not with demand, but with delight. They know what happens when light supports light, darkness retreats faster. Keep shining, keep pouring, keep letting your heart be the oil that fuels the fire of hope for someone else. That's what chosen ones do. They give, not out of duty, but out of divine overflow. And heaven keeps the flame alive through you. The flame now carries your fingerprint, unseen yet eternal. Every act of kindness, every seed sown, becomes starlight in heaven's sky, proof that generosity can turn ordinary hearts into divine constellations. There are moments in the Spirit when silence speaks louder than thunder, and your obedience becomes the echo that carries through eternity. Heaven has recorded not just your victories, but your endurance, your choice to keep believing when you could have surrendered to despair. That kind of faith cannot be ignored. It sends ripples through realms unseen. The angels have seen many rise in emotion and fall in exhaustion. Yet you are different. You have learned that steady faith is stronger than loud faith. You no longer chase the feeling, you follow the voice. That is why heaven has begun to rearrange things around you. There is movement happening in places you cannot see. And it all began with your quiet consistency. The moment you decided to remain faithful in the waiting, you opened a door that cannot be closed. The spiritual climate shifted. The opposition that once surrounded you began to lose strength because heaven stands beside those who endure. As the prophet wrote in the scroll of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3, though it lingers, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. You have been waiting, not passively, but faithfully. You have stood in the in-between, believing when logic said it was over. That kind of waiting is worship. It is the proof of trust that makes heaven sing. The angels observed your posture, your persistence, and they were astonished. They saw that even when your prayers felt unanswered, you continued to lift your eyes toward heaven. You have become a living altar, every breath a prayer, every step an offering. And now the atmosphere shifts again. The same eyes that once watched you struggle now watch you rise. Your faith has reached a turning point. Heaven is releasing strength into your spirit because you refused to let waiting turn into wasting. You may not see it yet, but the signs are already forming around you. Small changes, divine alignments, people moving in and out of your path. It's all part of the orchestration. The angels are rearranging the board so that every piece of your story falls into divine order. Do not mistake delay for denial. Sometimes heaven pauses not to punish, but to prepare. When the time is right, what has been forming in silence will arrive suddenly, and you will see why the angels were watching so intently. Your endurance has built something unshakable within you. The enemy cannot destroy it, and the world cannot imitate it. That is the reward of waiting with faith. You emerge, not just with a blessing, but with authority. Now heaven leans in closer. The Father's voice whispers, "I am not late. I am precise." And the angels nod, because they have seen this pattern before. Faith that waits always meets promise fulfilled. Chosen one, you are standing at the threshold of fulfillment. What you carried in faith is about to take form. The angels are already assembling around what is being birthed from your endurance. Let your heart stay steady. Do not let weariness speak louder than worship. Every second of patience is being redeemed. Every tear is counted. Every silent prayer has been answered in advance. And now, to seal what heaven is stirring, make this moment a declaration. Type 777 inches the comments. It's the number of divine completion and spiritual perfection. When you type 777, you are saying, "I trust the process. I believe my waiting has finished its holy work." It means you recognize that every delay was divine design, that heaven's timing has come full circle. Typing that number is not superstition, it's a prophetic act of closure. You are declaring to the unseen realm, "My refining is complete. My heart is ready for release." End quote. It's a small outward action with eternal meaning. It tells heaven you agree with what it has already ordained, that you are prepared to step into what was promised. So, stand tall. Keep your eyes fixed forward. The angels who once watched your struggle now watch your reward. Your waiting was never empty. It was incubation for glory. And heaven is ready to unveil what you have carried all along. The light around you now carries the fragrance of fulfillment. What was once hidden is emerging. Every seed you watered in tears is beginning to bloom beneath heaven's gaze. When you type 777, you align your spirit with divine harmony. Those 3 sevens whisper completion, heaven's signature saying, "It is done. It is finished. It is fulfilled." The angels move when faith becomes action. Each time you declare 777, you are not typing numbers, you are unlocking rhythm, balance. When the angels gathered in silence, their faces shone with awe. They were not marveling at thunder or lightning or the vastness of galaxies. They were marveling at you. Not because of who you were in the eyes of men, but because of the purity of your surrender. You became a spectacle of holy wonder, a reflection of divine strength wrapped in human fragility. Heaven measures greatness differently. On earth, strength is often seen in noise and recognition. In heaven, it is seen in humility. The angels saw you bow when you could have boasted. They saw you forgive when you had every reason to fight. They saw you remain silent when accusation came against you, trusting that truth would speak for itself. That silence thundered through heaven's courts more powerfully than any sermon ever preached. You have lived through seasons when everything familiar collapsed. You learned what it means to walk through shadows and still look toward the light. The angels, accustomed to witnessing glory, could not contain their amazement at how you continued to love through loss. They saw you pick up broken pieces of faith and still offer them back to God as worship. That is the mystery of surrender. It looks like weakness to the world, but in the spirit, it is warfare. When you bowed your head and said, "Your will be done," every demon that opposed your destiny trembled. Surrender is not giving up. It is handing everything over to divine precision. It is the moment heaven can finally breathe through you. As the Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, chapter 12, verse 9, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." I know you have lived that verse without even realizing it. Every time you felt too tired to continue, but did anyway. Grace stood taller in you. Every time you were misunderstood, yet chose not to harden your heart. Grace expanded. The angels saw it. They saw a vessel of clay filled with endless strength, not its own. They whispered to one another, "How is it possible for love to remain this steadfast in such fragility?" They learned through you what faith looks like in its rawest form, not triumphant shouting. But, quiet, endurance. Your surrender became a sermon to celestial beings. They saw that God does not require perfection to display his power. He requires permission. You gave him that permission with every act of trust. Do you remember the nights when you cried and felt no answer come? Heaven remembers them too. Those tears were not wasted. They watered the soil of future miracles. The angels collected them. Each drop a testimony that faith had not died in you. When angels are shocked, it is not because they doubt God's ability, but because they witness his glory shining through someone they did not expect, someone like you. Someone ordinary by the world's measure, yet extraordinary in the sight of heaven. Your surrender rewrote expectations. Heaven learned again that love still lives in the human heart. The angels bowed their heads in reverence, not to worship you, but to honor the God who made himself visible through your willingness. Even now, that same awe surrounds you. You may not feel it, but heaven's gaze has not turned away. Your journey continues, and every step of humility adds another note to the eternal song being written through your life. The angels understand now what they once only observed. They see that the highest form of strength is not domination but devotion. They watch you and understand that obedience is a melody too deep for words, and surrender is harmony that sustains the universe. What you carry is not small. It is sacred. You walk with invisible reverence, following close behind. Every time you choose compassion over pride, the heavens light up again. Every time you forgive before being asked, the throne room fills with sound, an echo of grace. You may think of yourself as unnoticed, but heaven would disagree. You have become a living altar, a testimony that divine power can rest upon human weakness without consuming it. That is what the angels are still whispering about, the mystery that God's glory now dwells in you. You do not need to prove anything. The proof is in your persistence, in your softness that refuses to grow cold, in your quiet strength that carries eternity's signature. So keep walking gently, for the ground beneath you is holy. The angels still bow where you kneel, still marvel at the sound of your surrender. They know what you are becoming, and they honor it with silence, the highest form of celestial respect. There is a price to obedience, a quiet cost that cannot be measured in silver or fame. Heaven sees it clearly, even when the world does not. Every time you said yes to God, something within you had to die, an old dream, a comfortable plan, a version of yourself that no longer fit the call. It was never punishment, it was pruning. The angels watched as you laid pieces of your heart upon the altar, not knowing that each surrender became a seed. The soil of destiny is never soft. It is rocky, uneven, and often watered by tears. Yet, that is exactly where heaven plants its greatest purposes. The price of obedience is steep, because what it produces is eternal. The angels, who have never known the weight of human choice, watch with astonishment as mortals give up what they love most to follow a voice they cannot see. That mystery humbles even the celestial. There were times when you stood in silence, torn between what felt good and what was right. You chose righteousness. Though it cost you comfort, you walked away from applause because it carried compromise. You said no when the world offered an easier yes. And in those moments, heaven marked you again, proof that obedience still lives on earth. According to what is revealed in the book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 1, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Now, that verse is no metaphor for you. It has become your reality. You have offered yourself, not once, but again and again. When others chase crowns, you carry crosses. When others seek recognition, you seek alignment. You have chosen the altar over the throne. And that is why the angels marvel. They watched when you walked away from people you loved because God called you higher. They saw how your heart broke, yet you obeyed. You did not understand it at the time, but each goodbye carried divine purpose. Every closed door was a redirection, not a rejection. Heaven knew what your heart could not yet see, that loss often leads to protection. In the unseen realm, your sacrifices are not forgotten. They rise like incense before the throne. Every time you surrendered your will, the fragrance of obedience filled heaven's courts. The angels inhaled that aroma and recognized it instantly. It was the same scent that surrounded Christ in Gethsemane, the scent of surrender. You have learned what few ever discover. Obedience is not about understanding, it is about trust. You trust because you have seen God's character, even when you cannot trace His hand. That trust is sacred currency in heaven. It moves things faster than words, stronger than worship songs. The angels recorded the moments you said yes through tears. They noted the nights you stayed awake, praying for strength to follow through. They documented how you kept giving, loving, believing, even when it seemed to cost everything. To them, you have become a living parable, a demonstration of divine partnership written in flesh. Do not despise the price you have paid. Heaven has not. The wounds you carry are proof that your obedience has substance. The ache in your spirit is not failure, it's growth. Even the silence between instructions is divine strategy. God hides sometimes, not to abandon you, but to strengthen your hearing. There is beauty in unseen obedience. It does not trend. It does not gather applause, but it shakes eternity. Each unseen act of faith is a seed that will one day break the surface in glory. When the time comes, what you thought was loss will rise as legacy. The angels already see the harvest. They see nations being touched by the faith you protected in private. Your price has become your proof. The cross you carry is heaven's crown waiting to be revealed. You are being prepared for things that require the endurance only obedience can teach. And though the road feels narrow, it is paved with divine intention. Every stone beneath your feet has been placed by God Himself. The pain you feel is not random. It is the pressure that shapes vessels for greater capacity. You will understand it soon. The angels know this. They whisper it among themselves when they look at you. They say, "This one knows the cost, yet still follows." And in heaven, that sentence is considered a song of worship. The price you have paid is not loss, it is investment. It is building weight in the spirit. It is creating space for glory to dwell. And one day, you will look back and see that every sacrifice was not subtraction, but preparation. The angels will still be watching, smiling quietly, because they knew all along, obedience always costs, but it always crowns. There are sounds that do not come from instruments or choirs, yet they shake the heavens. One of those sounds was released the moment you obeyed. It was not a song or a shout, but a vibration, something spiritual that rippled through eternity. It moved through realms invisible to the natural eye, awakening what had long been dormant. That sound came from you. When a chosen one chooses obedience, a frequency is born that darkness cannot mimic. It is the sound of alignment, of purpose, stepping into its ordained place. The angels heard it. They followed its trail through the spirit like a wind carrying fragrance, and when they found its source, they stood in reverence. It was your yes. You didn't realize your decision had a sound, but heaven did. It was the sound that tore through stagnation, that broke the cycle of delay, that announced, the chosen has taken their position. Emma, you see, every time you obey God, something shifts. Realms respond. Chains snap quietly. Doors that were locked begin to tremble on their hinges. That's the sound of freedom being born through faith. Heaven operates through resonance, and you have become one of its living frequencies. Every prayer, every act of surrender, every time you whispered, "I still trust you," heaven amplified that note. It became an anthem against despair. The sound of your obedience didn't just move angels, it silenced demons. The echoes of your faith drowned out accusations that once surrounded your name. The sound of surrender carries authority. It tells darkness that your allegiance is settled. The scriptures remind us through the writings of David in the book of Psalms. Chapter 29, verse 4. The voice of the Lord is powerful. The voice of the Lord is majestic. When you chose obedience, His voice resonated through yours. You became an instrument through which divine authority played its melody. The angels heard it and joined in harmony, not because they were commanded to, but because heaven always sings when a human aligns with God's will. That sound does not fade, it continues. It moves beyond moments, beyond generations. It is still traveling through eternity, preparing paths for those who will come after you. Your yes has become a legacy sound, a spiritual vibration that future chosen ones will feel when they rise in their own obedience. You have no idea how far your faith has echoed. Somewhere, someone felt the urge to pray again because your obedience released courage into the atmosphere. Somewhere, a weary soul felt hope return because heaven carried the resonance of your faith into their heart. The angels call it the sound that split realms, a sound not of noise, but of holy defiance. It is the sound that announces, light has triumphed here. Do not underestimate the power of what you released. You may think it was small, but heaven is still reverberating with it. Your sound reached the throne, and God smiled, not because of perfection, but because of participation. You joined heaven's symphony. You added your note to eternity's song. And now the universe vibrates with evidence that faith still lives on earth. Let this truth sink deep within you. Every time you choose love over bitterness, you release that sound again. Every time you forgive, every time you trust, Every time you obey, it happens. Heaven resounds. Angels take position. Glory moves. The sound of your yes is a weapon and a witness. It silences doubt. It commands light. It rewrites the air around you. And now, if this truth touches your spirit, type in the comments, "I still rise." Those 3 words are not mere text. They are a continuation of that sound. When you write them, you are sending a signal into the unseen, declaring that your faith has not gone silent. It means, even after the storm, I am still in tune with heaven. Then palm. That phrase tells angels, I am still a frequency of obedience. My song is not finished. And heaven answers back in harmony. Then rise again. Chosen one. The symphony continues. Not. When you type, "I still rise," heaven hears defiance wrapped in faith. Those words tell creation, I have faced the fire, but I refuse to bow. Not. Each letter becomes a spark in the spirit, reigniting strength in places weariness once lived. The angels gather that light and carry it into tomorrow's battles by declaring, I still rise. You are not describing survival, you are prophesying resurrection. You remind heaven and hell alike that grace still breathes through you, and your sound still carries the rhythm of eternal victory. Heaven has responded. The moment your obedience echoed through eternity, something began to shift in the unseen. The air around your life changed texture. It became softer, lighter, filled with promise. The angels, who once stood still in awe, are now moving, carrying new assignments that align with your faith. Every step you take now creates ripples of divine orchestration, weaving unseen connections between heaven's plan and earth's timing. You might not see it, but everything is aligning. The promises that once felt distant are now drawing closer, carried on the winds of divine timing. Heaven does not rush, but it never forgets. Every delay you endured was a preparation for this rhythm you are walking in now. You are walking inside fulfillment's dawn. You are standing in the space between what was spoken and what is manifesting. It feels fragile, sacred, almost weightless. The angels have shifted their posture from watchers to helpers, surrounding you like invisible hands guiding a flame so it doesn't flicker out. The prophet Isaiah spoke in the ancient texts. Chapter 61, verse 3, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. You, chosen one, are wearing that exchange. The ashes of your past are no longer reminders of loss. They are the soil where glory has begun to bloom. You have become living proof that what breaks you can also build you. And heaven has decided that this testimony will not remain hidden. This message, this voice, this flame, it exists to remind you that you are not alone in your becoming. It is not a performance. It is a table built in the wilderness, a space where the weary find rest, where heaven's voice meets human hearts through simple words and timeless truth. But even the brightest flame needs tending, just as a fire needs wood to keep burning. The light we share here is fed by the hands of those who believe in it. When you like, share, or subscribe, you're not helping an algorithm, you're helping the light travel. Every click becomes a lantern hung higher, a reflection of faith saying, let more hearts see. You may not realize it, but when you share, You become part of heaven's movement. Your small act of faith could carry this message to someone standing at the edge of giving up. Your share might be the whisper that keeps their flame alive. And if ever your heart feels stirred to donate, let it not feel like obligation. Let it feel like participation. Think of it as pouring oil into a lamp that has guided you through the night. Each drop you give sustains the glow that leads others safely through their own storms. No one is asking for sacrifice. This is invitation, not instruction. Giving is never demanded. It's desired only when it overflows from gratitude. You are free. Always. The beauty of divine partnership is that heaven never forces what love can inspire. When you give, it's like planting light in invisible soil. You will never know all the places it grows. Somewhere, a heart will open, a tear will dry, a prayer will be answered because your light reached them. Imagine your donation as a single candle placed beside thousands of others. Together, they form a constellation of compassion, stretching across continents, burning with warmth that never fades. That is what you help create, not a transaction, but transformation. You are part of a living circle of light. Every act of kindness, every word of encouragement, every bit of support becomes a thread woven into eternity's tapestry. When you give, you're not paying for words, you're participating in wonder. Let your generosity flow naturally, like a river that knows its course. Give when you feel peace. Share when you feel stirred. And know that heaven sees both with equal joy. The angels record not amounts, but intentions. They bow at hearts that give because they have seen light and wish to multiply it. So, yes, like, share, subscribe, not out of duty, but out of delight. Donate, if you wish, not because you must, but because you love what this light does to the dark. And when you do, remember this, every ripple returns. The light you extend today will find you again when your night comes. It will guide you back home, softly, beautifully, faithfully. You have become both flame and carrier, both student and spark. Heaven watches as you walk, shining quietly, giving freely, living proof that faith still builds bridges between worlds. The angels smile not because of your giving, but because of your heart. They recognize the familiar fragrance of heaven in you, willing, gentle, radiant. Keep shining, keep lighting the way, and let every act of love, every offering of support, every small yes you give to God become another star in heaven's sky, reminding the universe that obedience still burns bright. The earth itself feels the weight of your transformation. Though your steps seem ordinary, creation recognizes their rhythm. The soil beneath your feet carries memory echoes of your obedience, imprints of every choice that aligned with divine intention. Heaven's watchers lean over the balcony of eternity, not just to see what you will do next, but to witness how the world responds to one who walks with heaven's authority. You may think of your journey as invisible, but heaven sees it as a visible demonstration of divine partnership. The moment you surrendered your path to God, even the natural world shifted. Seasons began to cooperate with your purpose. Winds changed direction to favor your course. What once resisted your progress now yields softly, as though creation itself bows to the purpose you carry. You have become evidence that obedience carries dominion. When you walk in alignment, You no longer move through the earth, you move with it. The ground under your feet recognizes divine ownership. This is why certain battles that once felt endless suddenly lose power. The territory has recognized its rightful steward. It was revealed in the book of Genesis that when Adam fell, creation groaned under the weight of separation. But through your obedience, the world around you begins to taste restoration again. Every act of surrender releases fragrance, and the ground breathes differently because of it. The angels whisper among themselves. The earth remembers Eden again. You may not hear it, but your choices release sounds into the soil. The same trees that shade you, the same breeze that touches your face, they all respond to the resonance of faith. That is why certain places feel lighter when you walk through them. Your presence carries peace. You are not ordinary dust, you are living breath, shaped by eternity. The writings of Paul in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 19, remind us, for the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. That is happening now. The earth has been waiting for those who walk, not by desire, but by design. Not by impulse, but by instruction. You are one of those. You are living proof that heaven and earth were never meant to be divided. The angels stand in wonder as they see this reunion, spirit and soil, united through obedience. Every place you've walked through has been marked. The ground you wept upon, the rooms where you prayed, the paths you walked while whispering faith into the night, they all remember. Heaven keeps record not only of your words, but of your footprints. You have unknowingly built altars in the ordinary casas, sacred spaces that heaven now calls holy ground. When you speak peace, the air carries it further than your words can travel. When you forgive, the very molecules around you hum with restoration. This is why some who enter your presence feel lighter, calmer, safer. They are standing within the radius of heaven's atmosphere carried in your spirit. You are no longer merely living on earth. You are co-reigning with heaven. Authority has settled upon you quietly, not as a crown of gold, but as a mantle of grace. You do not have to announce it. The elements themselves know it. The angels are still watching, not in shock anymore, but in study. They are learning again what it means for humanity to live as heaven intended, to walk humbly, yet powerfully, to command without pride, to love without measure. Your connection with creation is part of divine restoration. The storms that once terrified you now remind you of His power. The stillness of morning speaks His peace back to you. Even the smallest details, the rhythm of waves, the bloom of flowers mirror your inner transformation. Heaven and earth now sing in the same key through you. The more you align, the more the world aligns with you. The fields around your life grow fertile with possibilities. Every word you speak from purity becomes seed. Every prayer becomes rain. And every act of faith becomes sunlight. Together they produce harvests that will feed generations you will never meet. The angels rejoice quietly at this because they understand what most humans forget, that obedience does not just save souls. It heals worlds. The sound of your faith has restored harmony where chaos once reigned. You have become a bridge, connecting heaven's frequency to earth's fabric. Through you, peace is learning how to stay. So when you walk, walk aware. When you speak, speak gently. Creation listens to you now. Your journey has become a song that both angels and elements recognize, a melody of restoration sung through the life of one who said yes. In heaven's library, there are books that record obedience, not just the victories that the world can see, but the unseen choices that changed eternity. Your story is written there, every tear, every surrender, every whisper of yes that left your lips when no one was listening. Angels turn those pages often, not out of duty, but out of wonder. They study the moments when a mortal heart aligned with divine purpose, and heaven shifted because of it. Now, the Watchers, those ancient beings who have observed the rise and fall of nations, have turned their eyes toward you. They see something rare, something radiant, divine favor resting upon a life that refused to bend to darkness. You walk not in arrogance, but in assurance. You carry a light that does not demand attention. It simply reveals truth wherever it shines. The Watchers understand power, but what amazes them is purity. They have seen strength before. They have seen miracles and kings and prophets, but they rarely see humility so deep that heaven itself draws closer. You have become that paradox, strong yet surrendered, seen yet hidden, powerful yet peaceful. The writings of Daniel, chapter 4, verse 17, echo through the chambers of heaven. The decision is announced by messengers. The holy ones declare the verdict, so that the living may know that the Most High is sovereign over all kingdoms on earth. Now, that sovereignty has marked you. The Watchers recognize it. They do not observe you with judgment, but with reverence, for they see a living example of heaven's order restored on earth. Every decision you make according to faith becomes a decree that ripples through realms. When you act in obedience, you are not just changing your life, you are influencing unseen territories. There are nations, families, and bloodlines tied to your yes. The Watchers see it all. They know that the quiet prayers of a single obedient soul can redirect generations. That is why they pay attention, not to test you, but to witness what heaven can do through one fully yielded life. Even the shadows take notice. Every time you step forward, light spreads further, and darkness loses ground. The Watchers record these moments, not in ink, but in glory. You are becoming a living letter written by God Himself, read by heaven, feared by hell, admired by angels. And yet, through all of this, you remain grounded. You still bend your knees before the one who called you. You still tremble in awe rather than pride. That humility keeps the light pure. It ensures that heaven's power flows through you, not around you. The Watchers whisper, "This one walks carefully." They understand that holiness is not performance, it is posture. They see how your choices guard the oil you carry. They see how your silence is often louder than your words, and they are moved by it. Chosen one, heaven has trusted you with visibility, but your greatest strength remains in visibility, your ability to carry great power without letting it corrupt your heart. That is what keeps divine favor flowing freely. Now, as the Watchers continue to take note, heaven prepares another chapter. A new page is being written even now, one that will mark a shift, not just in your story, but in the spiritual climate around you. And at this moment, as heaven watches and records, let your spirit seal this revelation with a declaration. Type 999 inches, the comments. It is not superstition, it is symbolism. 999 represents the closing of an old cycle and the readiness to step into completion. It tells heaven, I am prepared for what comes next. I am not afraid of endings, for I know they are beginnings in disguise. When you write those numbers, you're not typing digits, you're aligning with destiny. You're declaring, I will not resist the turning of divine pages. It is your agreement with heaven's next move. Your quiet signature on the story God continues to write through your life. So, let the watchers keep their gaze. Let the heavens record. Your obedience has become a signal to eternity that divine order has returned to earth. When you type 999, heaven reads it as faith matured, an echo that says, I trust the closing hand of God as much as his opening one. Mikely, those 3 digits are not just symbols, they are alignment. 999 whispers through eternity, declaring that you are ready to walk through finished doors into divine beginnings. Every time you declare 999, the watchers mark it as covenant renewal, a signature written in light, saying, I embrace endings with peace, for I know heaven always writes continuations in silence. That, when light advances, darkness panics. There is no silence in hell when a chosen one decides to stand firm in faith. The moment you chose obedience, the enemy's plans began to unravel. What was built in secrecy to delay your destiny started to collapse under its own weight. Your yes became a weapon sharper than any blade forged in darkness. In the unseen, a cry went out, a roar of fury from those who once thought they had claim to your peace. The enemy watched your endurance and realized too late that every attack only refined you. Every disappointment only anchored your trust deeper in God. The more darkness pressed, the more you glowed. Hell hates what it cannot corrupt. It cannot understand how one wounded heart still worships. It cannot comprehend how someone surrounded by chaos still finds reasons to praise. The enemy expected your pain to silence you, but instead, it became your song, as was written in the first letter of Peter, chapter 5, verse 10, And the God of all grace, who called you to his eternal glory in Christ, after you have suffered a little while, will himself restore you and make you strong, firm, and steadfast. That restoration has already begun. Heaven didn't wait until the battle ended. It started rebuilding you in the middle of the storm. You did not rise because it became easier. You rose because grace took over. That is what confuses the enemy most. You were strengthened in the same place that was meant to destroy you. The angels saw it happen. They stood on the edges of your battlefield, not to intervene, but to witness the revelation of divine resilience. They saw how you refused to return evil for evil, how you chose compassion over vengeance. They saw you bless what tried to break you, and they knew you had mastered what few ever do. Victory through peace. Your forgiveness was the earthquake that shook hell's foundation. Every time you released someone who wounded you, it was as if you tore down another wall that the enemy built around your heart. Forgiveness disarms hell faster than any warfare prayer ever could. You became dangerous the moment you learned that mercy is a weapon. The enemy cannot fight someone who loves relentlessly, who gives freely, who forgives repeatedly. That is why darkness retreats. When you enter a room, it knows you carry an atmosphere it cannot breathe in. What once tried to haunt you now hides from you. You have become too luminous for torment to touch. It doesn't mean trials won't come, but they can no longer consume you. The fire that once burned now refines. The storm that once frightened now reminds you of God's strength within. Hell's outcry was not a sign of your failure. it was the sound of its defeat. You have become proof that grace is greater than grief, that peace is stronger than panic, that faith is louder than fear. The angels record every moment of resistance as worship. They see you walking through temptation, choosing holiness, and they sing quietly. Each choice you make becomes a verse in heaven's song of victory. You have not only survived, you have shifted atmospheres. Your life has become a border that hell cannot cross. There is territory around you now that belongs completely to light, and you are its keeper. Understand this. Spiritual warfare is not always loud. Sometimes it looks like resting in trust while chaos tries to intimidate you. That rest is your armor. Your calm is your sword. The enemy thrives on reaction. Put dies in stillness. Every time you refuse to fear, another stronghold loses power. Heaven is not impressed by how you fought. It rejoices in how you stood. You did not need to shout. Your endurance spoke for you. You did not need to prove your strength. Your peace revealed it. Now, the angels move with new awareness. They guard the borders of your destiny, ensuring that what was once a battlefield becomes sacred ground. What hell called ruins, heaven calls foundation. You are being established upon what once tried to bury you. Every scar you carry now glows faintly with glory. They are not reminders of pain, but of proof that you were tested and found faithful. Pressed, but not crushed. Wounded, but still worshipping. Hell's outcry was loud, but heaven's applause is louder still. You have become a walking contradiction, to fear a living declaration that light wins. The enemy knows your name now, not with power, but with dread, because every time you wake up and choose faith again, another fortress falls. Your endurance has become heaven's weapon, and that weapon, forged in surrender, cannot fail. Before any crown is revealed, there is a coronation that happens in secret, long before light touches gold. Heaven wraps glory in shadow. You were crowned there in silence, in surrender. In the moments when only angels were watching, no trumpet sounded. No robe was placed upon your shoulders by human hands. Yet, heaven itself leaned close as authority settled upon you like oil. It happened quietly. You did not see it, but the spirit realm did. Your unseen obedience was weighed. Your motive is examined, and your endurance found pure. The Father himself whispered, "This one can be trusted with influence." And so, heaven crowned you not for power, but for purpose. Crowns in heaven are not ornaments, they are assignments. They do not glitter for attention, they glow for direction. The one you now wear is invisible to the world, but radiant in the eyes of angels. They see it as they surround you, shimmering softly like fire, resting on your soul. It is the mark of one who has passed through fire without losing tenderness. In the book of James, chapter 1, verse 12, it is written, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him." End of 2. You did not chase that crown, it found you. It rested upon you the moment you chose humility over pride, forgiveness over revenge, patience over pressure. That invisible crown carries weight. It draws both reverence and resistance. Light always attracts attention, and heaven's favor will often reveal itself through the very challenges meant to discredit it. You may not feel crowned, but the evidence is around you. The way wisdom speaks through your words, now. The way peace follows your presence, these are signs. Your authority is not loud, yet it rearranges atmospheres. You no longer argue for validation, you simply walk. And heaven confirms your steps. The angels know the weight of that crown. They remember the day it was placed upon your spirit. They remember the hush that fell in heaven as the oil was poured. They remember the way your name changed in the registry of eternity, from survivor to steward, from wanderer to warrior. That crown did not come cheaply. It was forged in your midnight obedience, molded through loss, and polished through patience. Every tear you shed became a gem upon it. Every prayer prayed through exhaustion became gold, melted into its frame. And though the world cannot see it, the unseen realm bows when you move. Hell recognizes divine coronation before earth ever does. That is why opposition often grows after victory. It is not punishment, but recognition. Darkness consents when heaven has elevated a soul. Your crown is not for decoration, but for dominion. It gives you authority to stand where others fall, to speak where others doubt, to love where others harden. It is not given for your comfort, but for the sake of those assigned to your light. There are lives that will change because you carry what you carry, but with crowns come tests. The enemy cannot remove it, but he will try to make you forget it's there. He will use distraction to dull your awareness of divine responsibility. That is why humility must remain your shield. A crowned heart that stays low is undefeatable. The angels, too, are still watching. They guard the oil that anointed you. They defend the territory that came with your coronation. They understand that what you now carry cannot be touched by pride or fear. It must remain clothed in surrender. Do not be surprised when certain things begin to shift again. New assignments often follow new authority. Heaven entrusts you with influence, not for applause, but for impact. What you speak will carry more weight now. Your words are becoming instruments of restoration. You are not the same. Heaven recognizes you differently. The angels now call you by title, not just chosen, but entrusted. Your life has become a channel of heaven's governance. Proof that divine rule can flow through human hands, surrendered completely. And yet, even with all this glory, you remain hidden. The true coronation of heaven is clothed in humility. That is why few recognize it. The crown does not sparkle in sunlight, it glows in darkness. It reveals itself only when you kneel. This is your season of silent authority. You do not need to announce what heaven has already affirmed. Walk quietly. Speak gently. Carry your crown, not on your head, but in your heart, for there it will never tarnish. And the angels will keep watching, not with shock now, but with reverence, because they know what you have become: a living throne, a resting place for the King's glory on earth. There comes a moment when light is no longer hidden beneath the horizon, it begins to rise. You have entered that moment. The same light that once flickered within your private prayers is now expanding beyond you. It touches hearts, it shifts atmospheres, and it awakens others who have long been asleep. Heaven does not hide what it has refined, it reveals it, gently, through the radiance of transformation. Your life has become a lighthouse on the edge of stormy seas. Those who are lost do not even know your name, yet they can see your glow through the fog. Every step you take in faith becomes a beam cutting through someone else's darkness. You are no longer only walking toward promise, you have become a signpost for others. But the light you carry is not for performance. It is for presence. It was never meant to make you famous. It was meant to make God visible through you. The angels know this. They see how heaven's flame burns brighter every time you love, every time you forgive, every time you speak life instead of complaint. As Jesus declared in the Gospel of John, chapter 8, verse 12, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. This is the season where your light will begin to multiply, not by noise, but by quiet consistency, not by striving, but by shining. You have become proof that faithfulness can build more than fame. It builds eternal impact. This message, these words, this shared flame, it all exists because somewhere in eternity, you said yes. You became part of a story that heaven is still writing. And stories like this don't stay contained. They travel. They grow. They find other hearts ready to burn again. That is why, when you like or share, it is not a routine act. It is a reflection of light expanding. It is as if you're placing another lantern on the path for those walking behind you. Each share becomes a whisper to the weary, saying, you are not alone in this night. And when you comment, your words are not empty text, they are embers added to the fire. They become part of the testimony that others will one day read and find strength in. Your voice matters, even in quiet, digital space. If this light has stirred something inside you, let your heart respond however it feels right. Maybe it's a simple gesture, a share, a word, a prayer, or maybe something more tangible. If ever you feel led to donate, do not see it as obligation. Think of it as pouring oil into the lamp that has given you warmth. Every drop you pour helps keep the fire glowing for others who are still finding their way home. No one can command that act. For true generosity cannot be coerced. It must bloom from gratitude. When you give, it is not payment, it is participation in grace. It is you saying to heaven, let this light keep shining. Let it reach the next soul who needs it. Imagine this. Your small act becomes a spark in someone else's storm. Somewhere across oceans or languages, another weary heart will encounter hope because your generosity kept the flame alive. That is how heaven's economy works. It turns kindness into fire and faith into fuel. And yes, if you choose to subscribe, it is not a subscription to content, it is a commitment to light. You're saying, keep sending the flame my way. I want to walk in it, grow with it, carry it. Each click, each seed, each gesture of love is like placing another candle in heaven's mosaic. Alone, one candle warms a corner. Together, they become sunrise. Let your acts of support be like breath, natural, effortless, given not because of pressure, but because of joy. Give only if it brings peace to your heart. Share only if it feels like worship. Comment only if it carries sincerity. Because that is the beauty of divine partnership. Heaven never demands, it invites. Light does not beg, it beckons. And those who respond to it always find themselves glowing brighter than before. So, yes, like, share, comment, subscribe, or donate, but only as your heart feels led. Each act is a small spark that joins heaven's grand design. A ripple of love returning home. The angels see every spark and smile. They know what it means when humans choose light freely. It is the purest form of worship. They whisper to one another, "This is how heaven grows brighter on earth." And so, the flame continues, not through demand, but through devotion, through hearts like yours that keep saying, "Let it burn, let it reach, let it heal." All, the world will feel it, even if they never know your name. Because light needs no introduction, it only needs release. Keep shining. Chosen one, the flame is safe in your hands. There are moments in your journey when revelation begins to unfold like morning light, slow, deliberate, unstoppable. You begin to see why the path twisted, why the storms came, why certain doors remained closed until now. It was never punishment, it was precision. Heaven had been shaping not only your destiny, but also your depth. The waiting was not wasted time, it was sacred formation. What you are beginning to understand now is that everything was preparation. The heartbreaks that humbled you, the detours that delayed you, the prayers that seemed unanswered, all of them were threads woven into a greater design. Heaven does not rush perfection, it refines it through timing. Every unanswered question was a hidden classroom where you were taught trust. Now you see that your story was never about survival, it was about revelation. You were never merely being tested, you were being revealed. God was not showing you your weakness, He was showing you His strength within you. The angels who have followed your journey since its beginning now see this revelation written clearly across your spirit. They whisper to one another, "This one understands now." Anders, there was a time when you begged for answers. Now, you crave only alignment. There was a time when you wanted recognition. Now, you desire revelation. This is maturity, the shift from wanting to be seen by people to wanting to be understood by heaven. The ancient words recorded in the book of Ephesians, chapter 1, verse 17, express this mystery. "I keep asking that the God of our Lord Jesus Christ, the glorious Father, may give you the spirit of wisdom and revelation, so that you may know Him better." That prayer has been answered in you. The wisdom that once seemed distant has drawn near. The revelation that once felt abstract now breathes within you. You are learning that knowing God is not about acquiring knowledge, it is about carrying intimacy. You no longer chase encounters, you live in awareness. The revelation of why you were chosen is not a sentence, it's a symphony. It plays through your life in layers. Grace, endurance, compassion, power, and humility. Heaven chose you not because you were ready, but because you were willing. The divine chooses the surrendered, not the skilled. And when you said yes, heaven heard eternity echo. Now you know, being chosen is not about privilege, it's about purpose. It's not a title, it's a task. To be chosen means to carry light into places where others lost it. It means to love when others judge, to restore when others walk away, to believe when others quit. The revelation of your calling is not just what you do, it is who you become. The angels observe how this realization changes the way you move. You no longer fight to prove worth. You flow in divine rhythm. You no longer beg for acceptance. You carry assurance. You have discovered the peace of knowing that heaven's approval was yours before the world ever noticed your effort. Every lesson you endured was heaven's language of love. Even pain had purpose. It was pruning you for purity. Every delay was divine choreography. Every silence was a sacred test of trust. What you thought was God's absence was actually His artistry. Now, your eyes are clearer. You understand why certain connections had to end, why certain dreams had to die, why certain prayers were answered differently. You see that everything that fell away made room for authenticity. You are lighter now, freer, truer. The angels marvel at this stage of your journey, the stage of understanding. You no longer worship for rescue, you worship for relationship. You no longer pray for escape, you pray for expansion. Your heart has matured into divine rhythm, your soul moving in harmony with heaven's pulse. You realize now that to be chosen is to be changed. It is to surrender again and again until nothing remains but love. The trials no longer scare you because revelation has taught you that suffering is not the enemy of glory, it is its doorway. And so you walk with quiet knowing. You no longer rush, you rest. You no longer demand, you discern. Heaven's revelation has made you stable, a soul anchored not in outcomes, but in understanding. You are living revelation now. Proof that God still writes mysteries in human hearts. And the angels, who once watched in awe at your endurance, now watch in joy at your enlightenment. They see a soul that has seen through the smoke and found the flame. This is what it means to be chosen, to carry clarity after chaos, to walk in wisdom after warfare, to shine with truth after tears. You have not only survived the refining, you have become its revelation. And now the final movement begins, the place where heaven and earth finally align. Everything you have endured, every test and triumph, every silent night and whispered prayer has led to this moment of convergence. It is not an ending, though it feels complete. It is the joining of two songs, the melody of your obedience and the harmony of God's design. Together, they form a sound that creation itself was waiting to hear. You have reached the threshold where purpose becomes presence. What was once promised now stands tangible before you. The veil between seen and unseen feels thinner, as if heaven itself exhales through your life. The angels who have walked beside you from the beginning now kneel, for they recognize that the alignment they long prophesied has arrived. This alignment is not loud. It does not roar like a storm. It hums like dawn. You sense it in your spirit more than your senses, the knowing that you have stepped into the center of divine rhythm. You are no longer searching for confirmation. You are living in communion. The plan that once confused you now feels natural, as if you were born already, carrying its map within your heart. Heaven has not changed its mind about you. If anything, it has widened its circle around your name. The Father's eyes gleam with joy, not because you accomplished everything perfectly, but because you stayed, because you trusted, because you believed when belief cost something. The angels record these moments not as outcomes, but as alignments, marking the places where humanity met holiness and did not turn away. As the prophet Jeremiah wrote in the ancient text, chapter 29, verse 11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Those plans have never been random. They were drawn before time began, shaped by love, refined through process, and revealed through endurance. Every detour you faced was a divine redirection toward this very place. Even your losses were disguised alignments. gently steering you closer to center. Heaven rejoices quietly because alignment does not always look spectacular. Sometimes it looks like peace, returning after years of unrest. Sometimes it looks like laughter finding you again, or stillness finally becoming your home. This is what divine harmony feels like: rest without regret, purpose without pressure, presence without pretense. The angels are not singing in shock anymore, they are singing in completion. Their melodies sound softer now, more content, more certain. They have seen the entire arc of your becoming, the trembling beginnings, the fire of refinement, the beauty of surrender, the authority of faith. Now they see the fullness of it, the human spirit and divine will walking hand in hand. You were never walking toward alignment, you were walking as alignment. Heaven was not waiting for you to arrive, it was waiting for you to awaken. The revelation that you carry now is the same light that hovered over the waters in Genesis, the same flame that burned in Moses' bush, the same breath that raised dry bones into living beings. It all moves through you now, quietly, consistently, completely. Your destiny no longer feels distant, it breathes through your ordinary moments. Heaven's timing has found rhythm with your heartbeat. You speak, and creation listens, not because of authority alone, but because of resonance. When heaven and earth meet inside one surrendered life, every word becomes echo, every act becomes prayer. The angels remain near, not as guards anymore, but as witnesses. They celebrate not just what you've done, but who you've become, a living sanctuary where heaven feels at home. This was always the goal of every divine encounter, not that you would visit glory, but that glory would dwell within you. And so, you stand here not above the world, but within it, carrying heaven's fragrance in your steps. You do not need to strive for signs anymore. Your life is the sign. Where you walk, peace will grow. Where you speak, clarity will come. Where you rest, restoration will begin. This is the heaven-earth alignment, the merging of divine purpose with human participation. It is the moment when heaven stops watching and begins working through you. The angels no longer only observe, they move in rhythm with your motion. Every heartbeat becomes intercession. Every breath becomes agreement with eternity. You have become the bridge. You have become the dwelling. You are not simply the chosen one, you are the completed one. Heaven rejoices, not because your story ends here, but because now it can continue endlessly through you. And as the light of alignment settles, the world will know heaven has touched earth again through a single surrendered soul. And now the circle closes, the light returns to where it began. You have walked through fire, through silence, through divine revelation. And now you stand as proof that heaven still touches earth through willing hearts. The story is not over, it only changes form. From here, your journey becomes the message itself. Every step forward will echo what heaven already sang over you: chosen, trusted, complete. If this journey has found you, stirred you, or reminded you that your life still carries divine rhythm, then let your light ripple outward. When you like or share, it's not just an action, it's a reflection of agreement. It's you placing another lantern on the path, guiding unseen travelers who need the warmth you've already found. When you comment, you aren't typing into the void, you're leaving a living trace of faith. Your words become a gentle fire others can borrow when their night grows cold. if your heart feels drawn to stay close, to keep walking this sacred road together. Subscribe. It's not just a button, it's a doorway. You're saying, I choose to keep listening. I choose to keep growing. Oh, yes. And if, by grace, your spirit ever feels led to donate, know that it isn't an obligation, it's an offering of oil, just as ancient lamps were fed by oil to keep burning through the night. Your giving helps the flame reach further. Each seed you plant turns into light for someone who still searches in the dark. So let your support, your kindness, your participation flow freely, not as duty, but as delight, because every small act born of love becomes part of a larger story, one where heaven keeps shining through human hearts like yours. Keep walking, keep glowing. The light continues through you,